Hi everyone, my name is Zojin and my group mates' names are Maya and Ellen. And today we're going to be talking about our section of the book Delilah's Daughter. And we chose to title our presentation Expecting the Unexpected. So obviously we're going to be talking about the poems, but we're also going to be talking about the themes that we found while reading them. Then we'll share some songs that we compiled that kind of relate to the chapter itself. Then at the end, we're going to share our individual responses with how we personally connected with the poems. So the image in our section of the poem shows an illustration of a dandelion whose puffballs are dispersing. This can be a symbolism for change and growth, as the puffballs are actually seeds that rely on the wind to spread out, eventually growing into new dandelions in different areas. And it's kind of fitting because of her age in this section of the poem, which is 18, and it marks this pivotal turning point in Kim's story.
Okay. God, universe, love, I trust you. Katie, the surrender. This poem, titled Faith, is about letting go of the things that are stopping us from what we want to do. We tend to second guess our decisions that we make because we always want to make the right choices in life, but it usually isn't what we intend it to be. Not everyone is the risk taker that is okay with making wrong choices, because sometimes you have to think realistically of what might happen next. For those who are trying to get outside of their comfort zone, this poem may be encouraging and motivational to have one or all three of the words lead you to the right direction. As you can see, the words God, universe, and love are in parentheses. While words in parentheses are usually for non-essential information, the speaker is giving the audience an idea of who or what they're surrendering themselves to, and believing that they will take you where you need to go. Trust yourself, trust your failure, and take your time. By God, if anything, please, just take your time. Katie. The poem titled Patience is about trusting the process of whatever challenges you might face as you become an adult. You have to trust your instincts because the majority of the time, it's usually right. However, if it is wrong, then you can take time and reflect on what you did wrong, and have it as a lesson learned for next time. As you grow older, you tend to accept that you will fail and that it isn't a bad thing. Even if you do or don't believe in God, just know that you need to have patience, because it's better to take your time rather than rushing to get a result that isn't what you wanted. In this poem, we could see that there are a lot of pauses because of the periods, indicating that it must be read slowly. With a long space with each line, it also connects with the idea of doing things at your own pace, like taking your time.
The way she prays, raises her hands, smiles at scriptures, all in the glory of her God. If you've ever seen a black woman pray like she does, well, it's the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. KD Joy. In this poem that we titled Spirituality, KD expresses her deep admiration for this she, who I think is a reference to the artist Lauryn Hill, whose songs explore themes of personal growth, love, relationship, faith, and spirituality. And in the context of this poem, particularly the age the poet is in during this section, which is 18, means that for a lot of us, this stage in our lives is a huge milestone that represents this transition from adolescence to adulthood. And in the wake of all these uncertainties that come with being 18, the artist sort of plays a role in shaping the way the poet views her relationship with herself. Because in many instances, people look towards artists like Miss Lauren, whose great lyricism invoked this sense of relatability among its listeners that validates their feelings as the lyrics act as a catalyst for those unarticulated emotions that we so often feel from within. Which is what ultimately develops the relationship with the artist and listener that's built on this shared connection.
Selah by Kim Davalos. For this poem, we decided to title it Pause and Reflect, as usually the term Selah is used as a break or division in order for one to thus pause and reflect on what was just said at the end of a verse in Psalms. In this context, it's been used at the end of Kim Davalos' poems that signifies her life as a 17-year-old. This coming at the end of the chapter specifically concludes that she's now reflecting heavily on herself until she takes a big step into becoming an 18-year-old. Usually, turning 18 can be a confusing shift from your childhood to adulthood, and it's a stage where you actually have to start planning on what you want to do in life. This stressful change is why taking a pause and reflecting on how far you got could be a way to recollect yourself and be able to move past into the next chapter.
Themes. The themes that we saw within the short poems and the chapters are things happen for a reason, trust the process, follow your heart, and it's all part of the journey. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. With all the challenges that come upon becoming an adult includes big responsibility. And as we get older, the more we learn that we should take risks. And with those risks, we learn more about ourselves. While we might be skeptical of the choices that we make, we can't always expect things to go the right way, because it's all part about growing up. When becoming an adult, you are free to do whatever you want, but you have to make sure that you don't regret those choices that you make. Because with regret, it makes you wish that you could turn back time and do it all over again. But realistically, we can't go back in time and change it, because whatever happens, happened. And we just have to keep moving forward with our lives, because at the end of the day, it's all about seeing where life takes you.
So these are a list of songs that we compiled that kind of relate to the whole premise of like the meanings behind each poem. So there's Led Me to You by Christopher, Feelings by Love, From a Woman by Mariah the Scientist, Hard to Let Go by Men I Trust, and Hey Jude by the Beatles.
The song that I picked is Led Me to You by Christopher, because it talked about how all of the mistakes, but realistically, we can't, because at the end of the day, it's the song that I picked is Led Me to You by Christopher, because it talked about how all of the mistakes led them to whoever the significant other is, and how it is normal to make mistakes and lead you to the right direction. The second song that I picked was Feelings by Lau, because it talks about how, like, the person can change your mind to something else, and how it could change your mind for the better, just like how, like, the dandelion leads you to the right direction, and how this person can lead you to the right direction of whatever you may want to go.
From a Woman. I close my eyes and trust your plan, won't let no one force my hand. And finally, some doors will close, but here's to open windows. And look at the trust closing in, here's to someone I can depend on, yes. From a Woman by Mariah the Scientist is about her experiences with losing her relationships and having to find a new person to trust. Although Kim DeValos isn't talking about her personal love life in these poems, I can relate this song as if she needed to let go of her younger self in order to move on to a new chapter, because leaving the past behind will lead her to a new journey and more opportunities. Hard to let go. You chase small embers that glow, hard to let go the little voice that told you so. You're closing in your cage, proud sparrow. Hard to Let Go by Men I Trust is about the concept of how hard it is to leave something you're comfortable with, even if it doesn't benefit you anymore. This song kind of goes in hand with this chapter because during this stage of Kim DeValos' life, she is learning to leave everything her childhood taught her before entering an important stage of adulthood.
So this is a song I chose. I'ma try to attempt singing, so don't try to come for me. So yeah. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her in your heart. Then you can start to make it better. Don't carry the world upon your shoulders. Oh. Anyways, throughout the whole song, he uses repetition with the words make it better, suggesting that you have the power to make do with your situation and basically make it better. And in the context of this poem, it really comes down to just having faith in yourself to take control.
For the connections I said with this chapter, I noticed that I could relate with the idea of letting fate lead the way and believing that things happen for a reason. As we get into adulthood, we learn that we can be free and do whatever we want. At the same time, we acknowledge to trust our instincts and to face whatever consequences may occur.
As someone who has overthinked a lot about how my life is going, I say that this chapter speaks to me. I've learned that some things were just meant to be, and I can't always have someone lead me through everything, because that's just how life goes. I'm at an age right now where I'm transitioning into a full-blown adult, and even with all the doubt and challenges I stumble onto, I have learned to just go with the flow, and any mistakes were meant to happen.
And as for my response, I feel like everyone, not just me, can take something from the poems being presented. A particular poem that stood out to me the most was on page 81, which I kinda interpreted it as when life becomes challenging, approaching it with passion and purpose will allow you to thrive instead of trying to survive. And kind of implementing this in our own lives by changing our perspective on obstacles that we may come across and kind of viewing it as something that could result in a positive redirection. And yeah, that concludes our presentation. Thanks for listening.